Welcome back to Music Theory Logic. Andrew here, and today I'm going to be making a beat from scratch. This is number 11. Let's go ahead into the Logic session. So here we are in Logic Pro. This is a little bit more of an evolved session than what you'll find if you hit create a new session. What I have going on here is I preloaded some instruments. I grabbed us some one-hit samples. In producer language, a one-hit is a kind of like it sounds. One hit, it's not a sample where there's lots of information other than one note, and these are all drum samples with the exception of the 808. Then up here, the MIDI that you see is a MIDI that I wrote for an instrument that I built in Serum, and I'll play it for you and then I'll kind of explain where I got it. The last piece of information is that I'm working at 140 beats per minute. Here we go. I'm choosing to write in the key of B flat minor. What I have sounds like this. All right, so pretty simple note-wise. I've got a B flat, a D flat, a C, and an E flat. That's basically like 1, 3, 2, 4 in the key of E flat minor. Am I right on that? Yes, I am. Okay. So the sound itself, I would build this like fully live on a stream, but I'm not really as proficient as I would like to be with this stuff. It's a lot of just experimentation. So I'll show you what I did here. I clicked the arrow to edit the waveform. I then imported a waveform. I imported this actual 808 down here. It has a bunch of samples. I then had to clean up said samples. I did a process, X-fade the edges, so that's crossfading the edges. Then I basically shortened it. I removed it down to just 16. I then went back in here. I put the oscillator down an octave. I did some FM from B, so I am using oscillator B, just the basic waveform, not any audio, but just to control this oscillator A, and that is down an octave. I'm then using the sub oscillator that's creating a lot of the low end that you're hearing. We're using envelope 1 to shape it so that it's kind of like a pluck in nature. And then this LFO2 is controlling the release of oscillator A and the sub oscillator. LFO1 is just controlling our FM on oscillator A, and then finally LFO1. Let's see here. LFO3, excuse me, is controlling the hyper dimension mix, the reverb mix, so creating the trail after that sound. And finally, I'm using the EQ to pick out one of the harmonics, and then I have the note tied to the frequency, which then I tuned by ear. So once again, after all of that, with the notes, it sounded like this. All right, so we're going to use that in some way. Let's mute that for a second. Let's figure out what other instruments I loaded in here. I've got this block sign, which is a preset from this Iris 2 from Isotope. And I'm going to write kind of like a melody / arpeggio pattern. So let's turn on our metronome. So going back to the 1 chord. magic. That'll work. Let's duplicate that instrument. Let's pull it up. Let's use a pad sound. I know a lot of people here watching these videos like the choir sound, so let's oblige. So I have to lean in. I have a new monitor, and I really need to take the time to make it a little bit easier on my eyes. There we go. Lost choir. Again, preset. Shout out to Isotope. Go and get yourself Iris 2, and you will literally have this sound. All right, so following the basic chord progression, let's use a B flat minor chord. Turn it down a little bit. Kind of like going on the half note. Let's see. Basically using like a so this right here, this is a fully diminished 2 chord. So that's a C diminished chord. We could probably do this, repeat the rhythm, only right here we'll go to the 5 chord. And we'll use harmonic minor, so the 5 chord would be minor here, but I'm going to make it a dominant chord. Drag the MIDI down wrong there. Cool. Let's start some cymbal patterns. I don't want that. I actually want these are 2 cymbals, and from what I recall, the bottom one is more of a closed hi-hat sound. Looks like legendary dubstep producer Barely Alive made that, or 2 producers. Can't remember off the top of my head. So here we go. Let's do like a steady quarter note. And on the 1, let's go with our other hi-hat sample. All right, so I did this, perhaps even in the last video, but a really cool way to create a pretty common sound with lots of different styles of music, but this works in hip hop a lot, is to take a delay. So I have a quarter note going on that closed hi-hat. If I try to make it just as loud as the original sample, and I go to an 8th note, it's going to make it sound like I'm playing 8th notes. So that already works, obviously, but if I take it to millisecond and I just change it like by 1 or 2, it's going to make it slightly out of time. Start to hear a little bit of swing. Let's go a little further. happy medium 220. Cool. So swing again is taking like every other eighth note and pushing it back in time. It's variable, so you can have a little bit of swing or a lot of swing. In general music, like jazz music that's played a lot of times with swing, you will see it written standard, and it'll say like 2 eighth notes equals dotted eighth note and 16th. The reason they don't write it with the dotted eighths and the 16ths is, again, it's interpretable, so it's a varying degree, and doing a little bit of swing really makes this stuff feel a lot more human. All right, cool. Let's see what it sounds like with my original sound. I'm going to make that less subby so we can... Let's use the effect on that sound. Let's bring up some delay. Let's put it at the very end. Nice. Let's turn it down, and let's get a kick and snare pattern going. All right, so I'm going to just take the same ones over. Add some extra kicks at the end here. So like these ones, since they're on the second eighths, I could take this one and like push it slightly back in time. That's gonna give it a cool... Getting there. So since that's already a 16-bar intro, let's bring in our actual 808 sound. Now it would be sufficient for this kind of style to just use this one note and to take it and do sort of something like this. But let's say I want to like create something more musical there. I'm going to create an instance of this EXS24. Now, those of you lucky enough to be on the M1, M2 chips, newer versions of Logic than this, the samplers look different, but it's pretty much the same function. So you want to enable all your extra functions in Logic, just the general presets that'll allow you to drop this in. Now, since I know that that pitch is actually a hashtag, let's put that in. So now this instrument is in tune. So there's our original one. So now we can actually play it. When I get out of it, you're going to want to save that, and you could call it like 808 huge. And then you can use it whenever you want. And in this instance over here, I'm going to write a little 808 fill. perhaps compress it, squash it, make it loud. We could even add some pitch bend in to give it a little more of a human touch. Pitch bend. I could take this and like bring it down, and we'll want to make sure that it's at 0 before. Cool. So that is now our 808 fill, and we'll use that like this. So a couple other things we can do to make this feel like it evolves a little more. Let's add a low pass filter on our choir in the beginning. So I'm going to automate the high cut frequency. It takes a while to wrap your brain around. Building a low cut means you're going to automate the high cut. It's kind of building a low pass. Some of you might get mad using the wrong terms. All right, so here's the beat that we built from scratch pretty quickly. If you found this helpful, you would help me out a lot by subscribing to the channel. I will do a little closing after this, but without further ado, here is the beat we created. If I were sending this to an artist, I would probably add some variation, so I might go back to just this part. We could get rid of everything but our choir and then go back into this kind of section. Cool. All right, here it is. Got to make sure the filter stays open through the whole verse. All right, cool. Well, hopefully you found that helpful. If you did, you would help me out a lot by subscribing to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications. Check out my music below. Go make some super awesome music yourself. If you're proud of any of the stuff you made, put it in the comments. I would love to check it out. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.